Hello internet! It's the end of June! Like, holy shit. For today's video I thought I'd do something similar to what I did last month in my May favorites video and talk about a couple of things that I enjoyed doing. Not necessarily that I bought and enjoyed, but there's something else I did want to talk about, and I've wanted to talk about this for a while. But if you've guessed by my Instagram, I have decided to go zero waste. It's a decision that's been a really long time in the making and I'm really happy with it. I wanted to talk about what led me to make this decision because I know it's like a big, change. And I know it might be a little weird. So I want to talk about why I decided to do this and how I'm finding some of the things I've been doing so far. This way, anybody who's watching these videos can go on this adventure with me. I know that's like a really cheesy thing to say. I know it'll be really interesting for me to go back and look at how my journey has progressed, and I think it might be fun for you guys to see that too, especially if people, aren't sure about the decision or have just made the decision or have made it already and enjoy watching other people's journeys. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to talk a little bit about the whys, then I'm going to go through the simple swaps I've made so far, the ones I put on my Instagram, and do a bit more in-depth reviews, I guess, and then I'm going to talk about my June favorites. I started my zero waste journey at about 13 years old. I fancied myself a bit of an environmentalist. Other than knowing how to recycle, I never really did much other than wearing t-shirts with like these environmental slogans. Green is the new black, or hug a raindrop today. And I would literally hug trees that my parents wanted to cut down in the backyard. But I didn't really do much other than that. I always had that excuse. I was 13 years old. I lived at home. What could I possibly do? In hindsight, I realized I was just making excuses for myself. As far as zero waste itself is concerned, I didn't think it would be something I would ever be able to actually do. I found that video of the woman that kept like 5 years of trash in a jar, and I thought that was really cool. And I was watching all of these BuzzFeed videos on zero waste, and I would watch them all like wistfully, just wishing it'd be something I would be able to do. I think because all of these BuzzFeed videos were coming up, I started watching a lot of DIY videos. First of all, because I really like it. I feel really relaxed and I watch DIY videos. But I also thought it would be a way to incorporate some of these zero waste ideas into my own life. Especially since, I'm living with my grandmother at the moment. For the last year I was living with family friends. So when I'm finally back living on my own in a couple of months, these are things that I might be able to do myself for me. I don't know if I ever thought I'd actually do them, but I at least watch these videos with at least a vague intent of trying out these DIYs at some point when I move out. And then a couple months later, I found this, again, BuzzFeed, video on minimalism. And this was something that, unlike zero waste, I did know something vaguely about minimalism, but it just seemed like something trendy, something to admire, but never something I'd actually think of doing. Then, when I was moving to my grandmother's in my little limbo situation, I realized I have a lot more stuff than I thought I did. When I moved here from America, I brought over basically what you can fit in a big suitcase, a little suitcase, my carry-on, my handbag, and a few bits and bobs in other people's things. So I felt like, I didn't really have that much stuff. I'd have plenty of bags to carry all of it here, but I did not. I've obviously bought stuff since I've been here, and that builds up. I felt like I needed to cut down anyway. I guess this video came at an especially relevant and emotionally frustrating time for me, and I thought that there were certain aspects of it that I could use when I finally do move out in a couple of months. This actually led me to thinking a little bit more about zero waste stuff because it became something that I was taking a lot more seriously. I'd already incorporated a couple of things, like carrying around my own water bottle, and was already planning on trying like soap or naked body wash. I was curious. I don't know why I made the decision. I think once it became something conceivable and I realized how much money I could save in the long run and how much I really wanted to do it, it became something tangible and it felt logical. I think I was going to try my best already because I was watching all those DIY videos and I just didn't realize it. I think now it's probably better for me to look at my 13-year-old self who was all words and just stop making excuses. I know I decided to just get off my ass and finally do it. It's been a lot of back and forth, a lot of should I, shouldn't I, and trying to explain myself to other people. But at the end of the day, it's just what you feel comfortable with, and this is what I feel comfortable with. I've decided to start incorporating as many simple swaps as I possibly could into my life while I'm still living with family. And I put some of those on Instagram, but I decided that today I would talk about how some of that's going as part of my June favorites. The first simple swap I want to talk about is a thermos and a water bottle. This is my thermos. Yes, those are King Henry VIII's wives on there. This is my water bottle. This was not a conscious zero waste decision. I got the thermos because I needed a new thermos. I got the water bottle because I was really sick of replacing plastic water bottles. I got this because I prefer to take my own water around, but I don't like paying for plastic ones because it feels like I'm paying for something that is free, and I didn't want to do that anymore. It just felt a little bit ridiculous. This is too big to fit in very many of my bags. So when I was packing going out, I would just leave it out. Then I would go out and get desperately thirsty and have to buy a new one. It didn't really work out the way I wanted it to. So I decided as my first zero waste simple swap to just try and bring this as much as absolutely possible. If I can't fit it in my bag and I go out and I get thirsty, that's your own damn fault. In a similar vein, I've also started to ask for no straws at restaurants. It's the easiest thing in the world, and I've actually had some really cool conversations with people who are working towards similar goals that I am, and it's been really cool to talk to some of those people. It's been a lot of fun. It's been really hard to do this since it's been so hot outside. I found it's a lot easier if you just bring a bigger bag. I do have bigger bags, I just don't often bring them, so just really being conscious and trying to remember. I've been getting a lot better at it. The second simple swap I wanted to talk about is my safety razor. I got this off of Amazon. I chose this one because I was reading reviews on these razors, and I was reading that it was hard to shave everywhere, but it was very clear to me that the people writing these reviews weren't women. So I typed in safety razors women because I knew that if I did it that way, I would at least get reviews written by women. And I did! I got this gold one, which is the women's color. There was a man's color that was titanium, but the gold one was like £3 cheaper, so I bought into the patriarchy. It came in this little case, but the blades and shaving cream came wrapped in plastic. Kinda defeated the purpose, so I'll need to figure out a different method of getting that next time. I did want to talk a little bit about the blade, because I definitely overcomplicated it. I went online and I looked at this 4-minute YouTube video that had absolutely no business being 4 minutes long, and I figured out it's actually really easy to put in safety razor blades. I think it's overhyped or overcomplicated online because the fear of the blade itself was actually really self-explanatory. Actually shaving was, again, something I think people made out to be a lot scarier than it was. It's definitely something I did much slower than I would with a disposable razor. It was able to go much faster as it went on. It's much heavier than a disposable razor, so the fear wasn't of me cutting myself, it was dropping it on my feet. But my legs were like so smooth. They like squeaked when I rubbed them together in the shower. It's also the easiest time I've ever had shaving my bikini line. Most all of it was gone in one stroke. Obviously I didn't shave as much as I usually do because it's terrifying, but it was actually okay. The one thing I will say though is that anywhere outside of the legs are a little bit stubblier than with a disposable razor. I'm wondering if that's just because the way the razor doesn't bend as easily and it's just not made for those contours. I don't know. I decided to hold on to my disposable razor for a little while longer just to make sure everything was okay, and I can say that I threw it away yesterday, so we're doing alright. Second time shaving though, I went a little too quick. I chopped up basically my entire leg. My eczema was not having it. I think with these razors, going slow and using a light hand is an asset. The next thing I want to talk about is my floss. This is my floss. Bamboo, charcoal, and beeswax. It is not vegan, but the company did promise that it's putting out a vegan version soon. I also got this off of Amazon. I actually bought it with the razor, and I think it was something like £5, which is like really cool. I love this jar. It's like a little glass vial with a cocoon inside. It actually took me a really long time to figure out how to thread it through the top there. Figured it out. I got there. They also send it to you in this little recycled cardboard box, which is really cool. It's made for people who are cutting down on plastic, so they're really conscious about how they deliver it to you. Actually, flossing was weird. It's like putting a string through your teeth. It's much thicker and coarser than plastic floss. It's also charcoal. You can see every bit of plaque you're taking off your teeth. I have a couple of teeth, especially on my upper jaw, that are quite close together. I find it sometimes a little bit difficult to get the floss in there, and especially since I get gingivitis so easily, I'm terrified of snapping the floss on my gums. If you've ever had gingivitis, snapping your gums while you have it is the worst. But it might just be because I'm careful, but I found that even if I do snap it, it doesn't hurt as much as it would with the regular floss. There's been no gingivitis, so I suppose we're doing okay. The last thing I want to talk about is gonna have to go further in depth in its own video because this has been a long time coming, and that's going paperless. I'm writing or doing my dissertation. I have a lot of pens. I can't waste them, but there's really nothing for them to do. So to use them up, the pens that I've bought in my search for the perfect pen, because that's a thing, are going to become work pens. Can't write with them for long, they're not meant for the way I write. I've also decided to start using my fountain pen for notes. Refills are much cheaper, but they're plastic. So this has to be more of a temporary fix, but I honestly don't know what I'm gonna do when these are out. It's super annoying. With my dissertation, any notes that were handwritten will continue to be. I have to use up the notebooks that I bought for them. Any annotations and any work I do on my PhD will be done on an iPad app. I've had this app called Notes Plus. I got the iPad actually because of the app. I've had it since my junior year of uni, and I've used it to take notes in class and annotate drafts of my manuscript. I need to use this more anyway. For one of my last chapters, I printed out like 80 pages just for annotations. I really need to start using this app because I can still handwrite my notes with a stylus. So hopefully that'll be okay, but I'll definitely have to go in depth with this a little bit more in its own video. So now I'm gonna move on to my actual tune favorites because I've been talking for a long time. So the first thing I want to talk about is this notes app called Bear. Bear was actually recommended from a YouTube video I was watching, and it's a lot more straightforward than Evernote, which I've actually never used. Anytime I would immerse myself, I would just get really confused. I've been using Bear to take notes for my dissertation and to write really long scripts like this one. It's actually much easier to write bulleted lists on Bear than it is on my word processing. It doesn't have the features that Evernote does, and even if you want to just share between devices, you have to buy a subscription. Just for doing the job it's meant to do, it's been really good. The next thing I want to talk about is a princess watercoloring, but look, I'm painting. A few years ago, I saw a bunch of them at CVS and I was like, I want to buy one of those. And one day I was just like, fuck it. And I did. I had it for a while. Believe it or not, I don't princess watercolor very often. Since I've been doing the zero waste thing and definitely try and cut down on the actual items that I own, I've been doing this a lot lately and it's really relaxing. It's horrifying. The paintbrush isn't precise. Her mouth is bleeding. Just going like this with a paintbrush for a few hours, it's really relaxing and it's just been a lot of fun. The next thing I want to talk about is when I'm doing dissertation work or working on my manuscripts, don't like working in a library. I think it's like manufactured silence and that makes me really uncomfortable. I prefer cafes. So I've been looking for cafe with the right atmosphere, and when I moved in with my grandmother, just couldn't find one and it was really frustrating. And finally last week, I finally found one. It's got this really cool atmosphere. It's not super loud. I haven't been able to get down there to do some work yet, but I'm just really excited to try it. Wow, this video was long. I really did want to get my zero waste story out there and talk about some of the things I swapped out to maybe make it easier for other people if they want to also swap some things out. I am glad I did this. I know it's a lot of talking, but at least for me, it was definitely worth it. You know, it's been kind of cathartic for me to explain myself and get my story out there because I think it's something that needs to be shared, and I really enjoyed it. If you also enjoyed it, please hit that like button, and if you want to see more videos like this, please subscribe. Let's be friends. As usual, I've linked all of my social media in the description box below. Please check those out. I just wanted to say from the bottom of my heart, for all of those who get to go out to Pride tomorrow, have an amazing time. I'm so jealous I don't get to be there with you. Happy Pride, and I just know you'll have the time of your lives. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you liked it. I post new videos on Fridays. See you next week. Bye!